Hey YouTube, this is John Graham, the Blackwing Master, and I'm here with my regional winnings deck. So, I'm basically just sitting here at 1 o'clock in the morning going, hey, let's post a video about our winning deck, because I am bored. Alright, so my first card I have is Gale. If you don't know what Gale does, Gale cuts the attack of the opponent's monster in half, and it is permanent. So sometimes you can just cut the monster's attack in half and just leave it on the field, which is sometimes funny, because they just sit there and they're like, okay, now I have half a monster to attack with. But I also run Kaluk. Kaluk actually combos with Gale really well. I don't know if people know this, because you just go in with Gale, cut their attack in half, and just be like, oh, you're still higher than me. And then you drop Kaluk and you laugh in their face. Kaluk helps win a lot of duels, but with Insectors out, he loses the Blackwing monster to work off of, and with windups out, he usually just gets sent from the hand to the graveyard. But there's other ways to get around that. My third card, I have 3 Boras. Boras help because a lot of people like to run Raikou, and a lot of people like to run Sandman, and his piercing damage helps a lot because he furthers me in the duel, and I usually end up winning by the amount of damage that he just did. My next cards are Shura, because Shura gets Vayu out, and then I can use Vayu to synchro summon, which I usually can't do when I play Vayu normally, but Shura helps me get out in this run. Now, Blackwing Sariku, I basically synchro summon with him more than I use his effect, because I use him to make my level 6s, and now I've made this deck so it can use Bouncer a lot better, because Bouncer wasn't out when I first started the tournament, but now that he is, I'm going to be doing a lot of destroying with him, because he's king of the anti-meta. Now I have these guys. Now, many of you guys may not know what this guy does. If you destroy one of my Blackwings by effect, I special summon him to the field. This is what helped me win almost every single one of my duels at regionals. But I special summon him out, and when he's on the field, if I synchro summon with him, you can't do anything to the reaction of his synchro summon. The synchro summon of the monster. You can't activate Lagia, you can't Torrential Tribute, you can't Warning, you can't Bottomless. There's nothing you can do. So I can get synchros that are good enough to be able to fight on their own, like Thought Ruler. I'll go get Thought Ruler, which is basically what I do with him. I go get Thought Ruler, and I start attacking you with it. The only thing that can save you is Mirror Force, because you can't use Bottomless, you can't use Torrential, you can't use Warning, and you can't use Lagia. So what are you gonna do? So I use Gust. Usually I take Gust, and it's the only card I can use to synchro summon with Wanderer. But I have a lot of searches in here, so I get Gust all the time. I add them from my graveyard. I get them out from the deck. It works out, and I synchro summon them with Wanderer, which isn't gonna be the basic purpose of the deck anymore, because I use rank 6s. Now I use Blizzard. Blizzard is usually a pretty crappy card, but I use him to make my level 6s. He can't be special summoned, but his effect can still work out, especially when you use Whirlwind. You can go and search out Blackwing, you can get one out of the graveyard, everything works out. Now I use 2 Vayus, because in case you don't know what Vayu does, I can synchro summon from my graveyard. Now when I do this, the monster may lose its effect. But what I usually end up doing is I use my cards to Black Rose, and when my Black Rose destroys everything on the field, yay, I get to bring... Oh, neither of us have any cards because I'm facing windups. Well, I happen to have Vayu in my graveyard, and you can send Vayu from my hand to the graveyard. It helps me out. You can use your Insectors and try to take out my Vayu, but my Vayu will bring back the synchro monster, and it will beat you to death after I Black Rose. Now, I also use Dark Arm. There's a lot of cards that set up Dark Arm in this deck, of my spell cards, and Vayu, but Dark Arm's just basically an essential because he's limited for a reason. Now I use 3 Effect Failures. Effect Failures are very useful because I use Chaos in this deck. I use Chaos, Sorcerer, and Blackluster Soldier, but obviously Effect Failures destroy the metagame. Why do you think it's worth $10? I use Chaos Sorcerer. I used Chaos Sorcerer to destroy a lot of XYZs. I used it to kill a lot of Zen mains, but the basic point of Chaos Sorcerer right now is to use Bouncer, because now that I have the Bouncer, I can remove from play one of your cards and then go get Bouncer and hurt you with it, because Bouncer is king of the metagame, as I've already said. Now I have Blackluster Soldier, because Blackluster Soldier is very fun. Also, to any people that keep quoting that they think that Envoy of the End is going to come back, you people are all very stupid. Envoy of the End is not going to come back. Envoy of the End destroys the entire game. There will be no point in playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Ever again if they bring back Envoy of the End. Blackluster Soldier is playable. We can destroy Blackluster Soldier. How many times do you see Blackluster Soldier enter the field and remain on the field after the end of your opponent's turn? Not very often. Envoy of the End destroys everything. If Envoy of the End come back, why don't we all just quit and go play Magic? Now that's all of my monsters. Now I have my spells. Dark Hole and Monster Reborn. Obviously staples. Let's not even talk about them. I use Whirlwind for my search. I search out Kluk or I search out Gil, which aren't the best cards right now, but they still help. I have my Foolish Burial to use my Vayu. These are the best cards right here. I use my Raptor Wing Strikes. I'll bring back Blackwing, and I'll add my Wanderers, because I might as well just get them out right now, because I'm going to be talking about them a lot. I'll go get my Wanderers, and I'll get set up for your Insectors or your Dolkas or whatever the heck you got. And I'll special summon them and just keep beating you to death with them. I also use Burial for Vayu, and obviously other cards like my Chaos or my Dark Armed. I use Against the Wind to maybe get a smaller monster. If I can deal with the damage, I'll get him back and I'll use him again. I'll just keep using him until the day you die. But I use Against the Wind. One Against the Wind. I use Creeping Darkness because many people say this card is shitty, but I remove from playing my Blackwings, and then I search out a lot of cards in this deck, so I need one extra search card, so I use Creeping Darkness. Now I have my traps. I have my viruses, which viruses are only good if you're about to, which is really risky when you sacrifice Dark Armed or your Blackwing Armor Masters. You make Armor Master a lot in this deck, so these cards are pretty useful. Basically, when you go to destroy my cards, I use this and destroy either your spells and traps, whichever one you use the most of, or I destroy the weaker monsters, because in case you didn't notice, all of the monsters right now that people are using are basically weak, except for Heritage Dragons. But they just came out. They weren't there at Regionals. I can kill my opponent's Insectors, and I can kill my opponent's Windups, and it basically helped me get all set up and shut my opponent down. Now I have my Dark Bribes, because there's not a lot of defense in this deck. You need Dark Bribes to defend yourself, besides, you know, Wanderers over here, which if you use Mirror Force, I'll just be like, oh, bring out Wanderers. But Dark Bribes are basically the basic defense in this deck. I use Solemn Warnings because I play Yu-Gi-Oh! And I like to defend myself when my opponent brings out a big monster. If you don't use Solemn Warnings, unless you're running like a dinosaur deck, you're not going to win, almost ever. I use 2 Starlit Roads because I like my Stardust. In case you haven't seen my Stardust, which you haven't, I have 2 Stardust right here. Stardust are really good. You activate Starlit Road because people like to go, oh, first turn heavy. Oh, you lose. And it'd be like, oh, no, I actually have Stardust right here. I'm going to beat you to death with them now, because there's not a lot of things that can get over Stardust with XYZs. Mostly the one card that gets over it is Acid Golem. But if you use Acid Golem, I'm just going to watch as you burn yourself to death and laugh, because it's funny. Now, my final trap I use is my Starlit Road. I don't use... This is my only defense, besides from, like, Dark Hole and such, which I use Wonder, but Mirror Force protects me from a lot of, like, my big attacks. I don't have to deal with that very often because I'll come up with a battle plan. But Mirror Force is an essential in this deck. Now for the extra deck. I use 1 Catastor, because Catastor is the answer to many decks except for basically Insectors. And he's pretty useless against Insectors, but he kills a lot against other decks. These may be Vortexes, but they're supposed to be Blackwings. I actually traded my 2, or not my Blackwings, my Armor Masters. I traded my 2 Gold Series Armor Masters for my Bouncer here, because at my card shop, there's a lot of people that really value my deck at a high rate. So as I saw this card, I needed this card, and even though I love, these aren't them, but even though I love my Gold Series Armor Masters, I needed to get this Bouncer, because this Bouncer is what makes this deck amazing. This increases the winning percentage by maybe 25, who knows. But those are supposed to be my Armor Masters. These are my Armed Wings. I use these, basically, I don't use them as their purpose most of the time. They're piercing damage. Obviously, piercing damage does a lot of good stuff in this metagame, but I use him to make Bouncer. I do it. That's mostly what I do with him. I take Sareku and I Synchro Summon and I make Bouncer after I get my Wanderers over here. Remember these guys? People say these guys suck, but this is how I win most of my duels. If you think this card sucks, well, screw you, because this is what helped me win regionals. Did you win regionals? I don't think so. Now I use basically Brionac. I use Brionac because it uses Brionic's effect, and if you don't know Brionic's effect, then, well, it is Brionic, so if you don't know Brionic, you don't know his effect, go quit Yu-Gi-Oh! Go play Magic. Now I use Black Rose because I'll Black Rose the field, go use Vayu, bring out my Armor Masters, and then beat you to death as you have nothing to defend yourself against them. Because a lot of people like to overset their hands. They did it a lot at regionals because they were afraid. They were afraid of windup. So I'm just like, hey, Black Rose, and then use Vayu to beat you to the shit out of life. Now I use Thought Ruler, because when I bring out Thought Ruler, when I bring him out, I use Wanderer. And when I use Wanderer to synchro summon for Thought Ruler, you cannot use Warning, you cannot use Bottomless, you cannot use Torrential, which gives you one card to be able to kill him. Your Mirror Force, or if you Survive, your Dark Hole. If I have a Starlit Road set, you're over. It's game. I win. But if I don't, you may be able to kill him. But that's 2 cards out of 40. If you don't have those cards, I'm going to beat you to death with Thought Ruler, and you're not going to enjoy it. Now you may have your Hornets and your Dragonflies and such, you know, your cards to get around it. But somehow, it doesn't happen. I'm going to beat you to death with Thought Ruler. It happened every time at regionals. Now one of my final cards is Mistworm. Mistworm is the best we have right now because they took Trishula away. I don't know if you know this, but Trishula is coming back. And if you people think that Trishula is not coming back, well, you can just suck it, because there's no more priority, and Trishula will come back. Because you have to protect her to use her effect, same as Black Rose, but guess what? I got Black Rose off every time, so we really shouldn't even talk about that. But Mistworm will do damage, and it will help me get my OTKs off. Trishula will come back, because, well, I'm kind of biased against Trishula, so let's just stop talking about it. I used Utopia. I already showed you Bouncer, so let's just go put it over there. I used Utopia because Utopia is a great card. The basic problem with him is because of Insectors and all this crap. He's not as good as he used to be. You don't have to... I can negate your attacks. I can't negate his destruction. So you're just going to kill him and then attack me directly. But if you kill him, I'm just going to bring him back because he's the king of this deck. Without him, this deck it's just a regular blackwing deck, and that's just crap. But Utopia is basically... The one thing I do with Utopia is I actually want you to destroy him. There's your secret. I want you to destroy him. Because when you destroy him, I have a light in my graveyard for my Chaos Sorcerer, my Blackluster Soldier, and I bring out these guys. And then I use it to go get my Thought Ruler, and la-di-da-di-da, oh look, I just won the duel again. Alright, so I forgot to show you these. These are my final 2 Stardust, and that is my deck. Now, if you have any comments, you can call me at 248-821-1132. 248-821-1132. Don't call me right now because I'm about to go to bed, but that is basically my deck list. It's on sale if you guys want to buy it, so alright, that's about it. Goodbye, YouTube.